Hello, in this video I'll show you the location and how to remove and replace the EGR cooler on Audi A4 A5 and A6 with a 2.7 TDI and 3-liter TDI engine. The car that I'll be replacing the EGR cooler on is Audi A6 C6 4F with a 3-liter TDI engine. We can see that the EGR valve and the EGR cooler are located in the V section of the engine right there. And in order to get access to the EGR cooler, first we need to remove the air intake hose right there and the intake manifold on the two sides. The air intake pipe is held by 10 or 12 T30 Torx bolts. We need to remove them. If the video is useful, please like and comment on the video and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Next, we're going to remove the vacuum lines from the EGR and from other parts, and then we're going to move the vacuum lines to the side so that we don't break them. We're also going to remove the EGR solenoid valve, which is right there. So now that the vacuum lines are released, we're going to put them to the side. There is another solenoid valve over there on the front of the engine that we'll need to remove. Now we remove this bolt holding the air intake hose, and next we're going to remove the two bolts holding the EGR line to the air intake. Now that we've removed the EGR line, there is a seal over there that we need to remove, a gasket, and now we can take out the air intake pipe. Next, we're going to remove the swirl flap motor. First, we're going to disconnect the electrical connector. There's also on the back this, I don't know what it's called, kind of like a stick that opens the swirl flaps. And also there is 3 bolts as well. Yeah, we need to remove this thing. We just need to disconnect it. I'm going to be using 1 or 2 screwdrivers to take it out. and the solar flap motor is out. Next, we're going to remove the other solar flap motor. We'll do exactly the same thing. Next, we're going to remove the heat shield for the turbo. It's held by two Torx bolts, and then we lift it out. Next, we need to remove the two intake manifolds. This is the first one over there, and that's the second one there. They're held by 8 bolts, Allen key size 6, 8 bolts each. We need to remove them. Before being able to remove this left intake manifold, first this coolant line is on the way, so there is a bolt, it's like a banjo bolt, which is down there that we need to remove. In order to get, we don't need to remove it, we only need to get it loose so that the coolant line gets loose. And when the coolant line gets loose, we'll be able to push it a little bit to the side so that we can remove the intake manifold. There's not much space to remove it, but when you push a little bit the intake manifold to the side and with a long extension, you'll be able to get it eventually. And when you get it, now you see how it gets, how the coolant line becomes loose so that we can remove the intake manifold. That's enough space to remove the intake manifold. Next, we're going to remove these two Torx bolts so that we can remove this thing that holds the EGR valve and the EGR solenoid. We're gonna remove them so that we can make more space for to remove the intake manifold. Now that everything is removed, we can take out the intake manifold. We'll try and push the manifold to the back and take it out from the back. And that's the left intake manifold out. Next, we're going to put a cloth on over the cylinder head so that no contamination gets into the cylinders. Next, we'll start removing the right intake manifold. There is again 8 Allen key bolts that we need to remove. Here on this side of the intake manifold, there is still again another, that's this time an oil line that is in the way, so we need to loosen this bungee bolt right there in order to get this oil line loose. Yeah, I think now it's loose enough, so we'll be able to take out the manifold. Next, we'll remove this thing that holds the engine cover. Next, we're going to remove this fuel line that's over the engine. We need to remove this thing, this nut as well, and another nut on the other side. When we remove that, we'll be able to take out the manifold. If we don't remove it, we won't be able to take out the manifold. We could have taken out the fuel line even before we removed the left manifold, but we managed to remove the manifold without removing it, or without removing the fuel line, so now we need to remove it definitely. And that's the fuel line removed. Next, to get this hose loose from the electrical connection, and we're not going to disconnect it, just to get it loose so that we can lift it up a little bit to be able to take out the intake manifold. And now that everything is loose, we can pull out the intake manifold. We're going to remove it from the front. And that's the right intake manifold out. Next, we're going to put a cloth on the cylinder head to be able to keep it from contamination. Next, we need to remove this part of the EGR valve. This part, the solenoid part of the valve, it's held by two bolts which are M10 that we need to remove. First, we're going to remove the bottom bolt, and then we're going to remove the top bolt. So first I'm going to remove the lower bolt. It's a bit hard to get, so you need both hands in order to get to the bolt, but you get it eventually. And that's the lower bolt out. This is the tool that I'm using, a short M10 long extension, and this bending tool as well, so that we can get to it. Next, we're going to remove the top bolt. Once we remove the bolt, there is a gasket behind this EGR valve, and we can take out the EGR valve. However, this is not the whole part of the EGR valve. The bigger part, the main part, is onto the EGR cooler. So next we're going to remove the EGR cooler along with the EGR valve. First we need to remove those two bolts for this air hose. Next, we need to remove the two bolts that are coming from the exhaust manifold line and they're onto the EGR. That's one, and that's the other one right there. They're again an M10 bolts, and we need a long extension in order to remove them. And that's the first bolt removed. Next we're going to remove the second bolt. Again, we need a long extension and maybe a bending ratchet so that it's much easier. And that's the second bolt removed. Next, we're going to remove the coolant lines on the EGR cooler. We're going to remove the brackets and then remove the coolant lines. Next, we need to remove this oil line which goes to the turbo. We need to remove this banjo bolt because it's in our way to remove the EGR cooler. Now we're going to remove the other coolant line. There is another coolant line that we need to remove. It's on the bottom of the EGR cooler, and it's right there. We can see the bracket over there. It's 7mm socket that we need to loosen it, and then afterwards, when the EGR valve is free, we're just going to pull out the hose. Next, we'll start removing the EGR cooler along with the EGR valve. First, we're going to remove 4 bolts. They're Allen key size 6. That's the one over there. And the other one is on the other side, right there. And there's 2 on the other side of the EGR cooler. And the bolts are, one of them is right there and the other one is on the other side. There's another 2 bolts that we need to remove on the EGR cooler before attempting to take it out, and these are those 2 bolts, which are size 10 sockets. They're on the right side of the EGR cooler, right there. Before attempting to take out the EGR cooler, first we're going to we need to loosen this coolant line because it's not letting us remove the EGR cooler, and the coolant line, the bolt holding the coolant line is over there. We need to remove that bolt, and then we'll get the EGR cooler out. To get better access to that bolt, first we're going to remove this air intake hose, and now we're going to remove the bolt holding the coolant line. Now that everything that's in our way is removed, now we can take out the EGR cooler and the EGR valve. And that's the EGR cooler and the EGR valve out. This is the coolant hose that I was talking about, that was very hard to see. This is the clamp that we removed, and also this metal plate we couldn't remove it because there is a bolt on the bottom, which is right there. We don't have access to it, so we removed it like that.